Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Gizmo Joe. If you couldn't tell by what you're looking at right now, this episode is dedicated to this particular keyboard. What this is a keyboard by Drop. Specifically, it is the Drop Entr, or if we flick it over, the Drop Entr. Anyway, this is a mechanical keyboard by Drop, and obviously you can see it's got this really cool sort of like matte look. It's got this like gray and like slate blue kind of color scheme going on, which is very cool. I'm liking it. It's definitely my style. Fits sort of the decor of my house. Very dark academia. Loving it. Anyway, I got this keyboard. Actually, it was a gift from a friend of mine. And he basically said that he wasn't using it anymore, and he knew that I liked the feel of mechanical keyboards. And basically, long story short, my mechanical keyboard were red switches, which are quite loud. Wait, is that blue switches that are loud? I think it's blue. I could be wrong. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm not a big keyboard guy. But anyway, yeah, the switches were quite loud. And he was like, oh, maybe you might want to give this one a go because this one's a bit quieter. So these, I believe, are brown switches. Or maybe they're red switches. I don't know. Yell at me in the comments because I have no idea. I always get confused between the different switches. These are the quietest ones, which I think are brown. Maybe they're red. I don't know. They're definitely not blue. I think. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But basically this keyboard is, I believe it's what they call a 70% or whatever. It's not quite one of the teeny tiny ones, which, looks like this, but it doesn't have the full sort of number pad over here. So it's kind of like that happy medium. I don't really use the number pad much because I don't do a lot of like accounting or anything like that. So I find that that's not a huge issue for me, and I actually quite like the size and form factor of this particular keyboard. Now, I wasn't familiar with Drop keyboards before, but I have to say I am pretty impressed with the build quality. The build quality on this is really nice. So basically this whole like chassis or frame or whatever you want to call it is metal. It's aluminum. It's got some heft to it. I mean, for some people maybe that's a deal breaker because it is kind of heavy. I don't know if I necessarily want to be putting this in a bag or something like that and carrying it around with me. I mean, it's not like it weighs a ton, but it definitely has heft to it, and that's because of that solid sort of metal construction, which I actually quite like. I think it's just very elegant, looks really nice. And again, anything that has a bit of weight to it just feels more premium to me. I know it could be all smoke and mirrors, kind of like Beats headphones where they stuck weights or something in the headphones to make them feel heavier. But I don't know, it works. There's something in the human psychology that just basically says, hey, heavy equals good, or I don't know, expensive at least. But I actually quite like typing on this guy. I don't know, I'm going to shut up for a second so you guys can actually hear what it sounds like when I press the keys. Pretty quiet, right? So again, I believe, actually, I don't know if it says it on the back, but I believe that these guys are brown or red switches, whichever one's the quieter one. But it's definitely pretty quiet. I have to admit that my partner, she would sometimes get a little batty with my loud keyboard. She'd be like, those effing keys, she'd be like, if I left the door open to the office, she'd run over and like shut the door. So this one, she hasn't complained yet, at least, about it. So I guess, there's obviously a big difference there. I have to say, from a tactile perspective, it feels nice too. There's a decent amount of travel. Even though the clicks aren't as loud, I can definitely feel them. So, it is still nice to type on. I'm actually really, really enjoying it. I'm going to just plug it in real quick. I should mention it is not wireless. I'm not a big PC gamer. I know I've got a ROG Ally. I prefer a controller, to be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of keyboard controls. So I know some people be like, oh, for latency or whatever, you shouldn't use wireless. But I do quite like wireless just because it's cleaner and it's less messy. This guy is not wireless, unfortunately. So I've got a little USB port up at the top. I'm trying to feel my way around here because I'm looking at the camera at the same time. I'm going to plug that guy in. Now, There we go, just registered. You'll notice that the backlighting is just this one sort of solid white color. From what I understand, there's no way to like change the patterns. It's not like it's got crazy RGB or anything like that. And personally, I much prefer this. I like the simplicity of it. I think the aesthetic of it is just, I don't know, it's a little classier. I hate to say or be some sort of like, elitist or whatever, but I find sometimes the RGB stuff is a bit tacky. It's just not for me. I'm not trying to judge, but yeah, I don't particularly like it. So the fact that this is just that sort of white backlighting is nice. I think some people would find maybe this a bit too bright, but personally, I don't ever sit in a dark room. Like, whenever I sit in a room and I'm working or whatever, like, it's never completely dark, so I don't find this to be overbearing. I think if I was in a very, very dark room, this would be too bright. But like I said, for my purposes, I don't really have any issues with it. I just think it looks really nice. And like I said, the keys have nice travel to it. There's a sufficient sort of clicky feeling. And the travel is quite nice as well. This keyboard, from my understanding and the little bit of research that I've done, is not terribly expensive. You can pick one of these up for about $100 Australian, so it's not super pricey. I'm not sure if they're available worldwide. I would imagine so. I'm 100% sure what country this originates from. Obviously, like I said, I'm in Australia, and it was purchased here. But I'll leave a link down in the description to Drop's website. It's just drop.com if you're interested in one of their keyboards. But yeah, I just figured I'd do this quick little video to kind of tell you about it. Again, I'm not a keyboard guy. I don't know much about keyboards, as evidenced by the fact that I don't even know the difference between my switches. But I do like the feel of mechanical keyboards, and I like the sound of them as well. And this guy is affordable. The build quality is excellent. It just looks cool in my opinion. I think, they really nailed it with the sort of color scheme, or at least for my house and my decor and all that sort of stuff. Like, it just fits in really well. You can kind of see I've got a very dark wood desk, and I think it matches quite well. Even my monitor riser, which you kind of see up in the top left-hand corner on the right, like it's I made it myself out of an old desk. So it's like, everything's a lot of wood in my house and stuff. So I just like that sort of look. So yeah, so if you're interested in this, or you're in the market and you're looking around for another keyboard, I had never heard of this brand before, so that's why I figured I'd do a quick video and just talk about how much I'm enjoying it. And again, they're pretty cheap, so definitely give them a look if you're in the market for a new keyboard. But anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. This is Gizmo Joe signing off.